This is a Collins number 18 Marine Raider Bowie from, I don't know, World War II era. I'm almost positive that this was not actually carried by a Marine Raider, because they made thousands of these and who knows what happened to all the originals. But it's pretty true to the ones that they would have been carrying. The knife has a 9 1/4 inch blade and the brass guard. It has a what I assume is Bakelite handle. That was pretty popular at the time. That is a sandwich style handle that comes together, and they've mitered the inside of the handle out to fit a skinnier tang, and the handle is secured to the tang with these pins here, and that keeps this guard pushed up against the ricasso area of the knife so that it doesn't move. I'm also assuming that they put some sort of a little bit of a taper on the tang this way, tapering down a little bit, so that when they put the guard on they can press it in so it doesn't move a whole lot. This particular knife weighs 14.5 ounces, so pretty hefty knife, and I think a lot of that weight comes from the guard, because the blade isn't all that thick. It looks to be about an 1/8 inch thick, and there's not all that much steel in the tang of the knife. I think if you took this handle off, you'd find that this is, you know, relatively thin, relatively narrow tang there. So you've got a pretty heavy knife, and I think a lot of that weight came from the guard. I really like this knife, but there were a couple things I wanted to change. I didn't want to have a brass guard on there, especially one with the top quillion there, because I don't need it. I don't knife fight, and this really serves no function for me. The other thing I wanted to change was this bird's beak back here. It's kind of uncomfortable when you try to actually do anything with this knife. So I made a video on these, but just briefly, this was my redesign of that for my own purposes. And this is one of the original Steeg Bowies. I'll put the link to a video about this in the description. I basically took this exact blade shape and made a pattern, played around a little bit, and came up with this. So this is full tang. The handle scales are secured with both epoxy, which is more meant as a water barrier than anything, and pins going through the tang. I did not skeletonize the tangs on these. I forged a guard in, and I used a full height convex grind. They're very good at chopping. You chop with this and it does exactly what you want it to do. It's got, you know, kind of a gentle curve, so that whenever you hit something, you're going to be hitting a changing angle. So as you're going and chopping through something, the angle is always changing, the blade interfacing with whatever material you're trying to go through. So it does a very good job of that. These were made with 1/4 inch thick 52-100. I didn't choose that steel. What happened was I ordered 1095 from a company, and they sent me 52-100. So I made out the blanks and sent them off for heat treat to a guy named Randy Buckmaster, and he did a fantastic job on the heat treat of these. This knife has been used and used and used and used and abused, and I haven't ever even had to sharpen it. That's how good his heat treat was. This knife came in at 1 pound 5 ounces, so 6.5 ounces heavier than the original Bowies, but I thought that was a good compromise. So about the full height convex grind. At that time I was doing a lot of jungling, or basically screwing around in jungle. I was on you know, Amazon 5000 expedition. I'd gone to Peru a bunch of different times in the Amazon jungle and basically screwed around down there. And the thing that I would use a big knife for down there was things like shelter building, you know, building rafts and basically tasks where you have to chop a lot. So it makes sense that I chose that grind at that time. The other thing is that at that time, this was a very easy grind for me to execute and execute very well with slack belt grinding on the grinder over there. So that was a good choice for me at that point. But there are things that I would change about this. For instance, I wish that this guard was a little bit wider. It's nice to have that guard there and to have that area spread, have the force of impact if your hand should impact on that spread out rather than just being the width of a 1/4 inch. So, but I'd like that a little bit wider. The other thing is that I would like a different grind, and I have been favoring more flat grinds with a convex edge nowadays, and I would like this swedge to be more aggressive and deeper, just for a couple different reasons. Number one, the weight savings. Both the flat grind and a deeper swedge there is gonna change your weight, and taking a lot of material off out in this area brings the balance point back further towards the handle. The other thing is that I would have liked to have done a skeletonized handle on here. Not like ridiculously skeletonized, but skeletonized enough to just lighten up the overall weight of the knife. The balance point on this is perfect for chopping, but it kind of feels a little bit thuddy to me, and it always has, and that's what I wanted at the time, so that's what I made. This is one of the prototypes. So one of the reasons why I don't like to grind the same damn knife over and over again is I like to make improvements and stuff, and I like to experiment and play around, and so I don't like to do the same repetitive task. So what I did was I introduced all of those changes that I wanted into the Bowie. So this is the Steeg Bowie version 2.0. I made a bunch of different changes. One thing is that this profile at the top of the handle accommodates for the swell of the palm more, and I think looks more attractive than the profile of the original Steeg Bowie that I did. There is some very subtle dipping here to accommodate the swell of the palm, but visually and tactilely I like the feel of this handle better. Another thing I did was, there you go, I widened out the guard, thus distributing any kind of force over a much wider area. You see there's big difference. Much wider guard, I like it better. I also skeletonized the handle, like I said, and I changed from using just through and through pins to using Corby bolts, so that this handle and the scales are secured to this knife using mechanical fasteners as well as glue. So I do not see a way that this will ever come off of there unless it's purposefully drilled out. Then you see the 5-degree flat grind, like I mentioned, with a convex edge, and I made the swedge a lot more aggressive. For two reasons. Once again, like I said, I wanted to push the balance point back that way and lighten up the front of the knife so it doesn't feel so thuddy. And also visually, I like that look better than I like that look. It's the same blade shape, I just executed it differently. Jerry Fisk once told me that another reason to put a swedge like that on a knife is so that when you are cutting through something, the material flows like this and then meets less resistance back here, so that it improves your efficiency in slicing. This knife will still chop, but it does a whole lot of stuff with a lot more facility than my original Raider Bowies do. This is a better chopper than this knife, but overall I get more use out of something like this than I get out of this. Modern day right now. These have the exact same blade shape, so they actually do fit quite nicely into the original sheaths. So if you had an original sheath, you know, and you wanted me to make you one of these, I suppose I could. But they fit really well into the sheaths. And like I was saying, I did bring the balance point back further towards the handle, so the knife feels a lot livelier, doesn't feel so thuddy. These come in at 1 pound 2 ounces, so I shaved 3 ounces off of the original knife and improved the feel, and in my opinion improved the function. 3 ounces may not seem like enough, or may not seem like that much of a difference, but in the hand it feels like an enormous difference. When I can carry a knife that basically does everything better except for chopping and comes in at a lighter weight, I like that. One of the reasons I like that is you learn pretty quickly carrying a 60-pound pack over 400 miles of jungle that every ounce counts. And I mean, if that's not important to you, then it's not, and that's fine. So here you go. This is why I don't like to grind the same knife over and over again, and this is version 2.0 of the Steeg Bowie. Thanks for watching.